welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside hot, hazy Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, where it's probably just as hot there. My good friend, longtime esteemed colleague, John Webster. How you doing, John?
Gary, I'm doing great, man. Ain't got no complaints. It is hot here. Coming home yesterday, I think my air conditioner busted in the car. So I'm hoping for 70-degree weather and 85-degree weather the rest of the week before I break the news to Kim that we're going to have to spend some money to fix the air conditioner in the car. So we'll see how that
Oh,
goes.
oh, oh man. That's almost like repairing the air conditioner at home, man.
Yes, I can hear the conversation already, Gary.
Yeah, yeah. But you got to do what you got to do because it ain't like them cars in the early '60s that had that little window vent. You used to fold in. Remember those?
Yeah, I do. Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
actually kind of miss them because I was thinking like a couple of cars we had growing up. But actually, my mom's Mustang was like the first car we had with air conditioning.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, because it wasn't standard then. Remember that used to be
Yeah,
an accessory.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting
Anyway,
ready to be a non-accessory for me very soon.
and most of this is over the head of our traffic cop who is used to cell phones and air conditioning. John Pitt, how you doing, man?
John Pitt is getting excited. 16 days away from the NFL season, guys. And Gary, I'm sorry. I thought Webster enjoyed the heat. What am I hearing here? I don't get it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought John. And look at him now. He's indoors and he's got on a hoodie.
Hey, let me clarify. Yes, I enjoy the heat. I absolutely positively do. But it's not good to sweat on your way to work and then spend 8 hours at work smelling like a dump. That's not too cool.
Gotcha. I
Uh,
get
yeah, I love the heat, but I don't like the funk.
I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, John, we appreciate your diligence. I'm sure your coworkers appreciate that too, man, because it's a long day in August, man. To be working with somebody is dead and stinking like Elmo Jenkins. But anyway, remember that old school term?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have to do like the guys. Remember we were kids, Gary? I had to
Hmm.
do like the guys back in the day, drive to work, and I'll just have on my tank top, and then I'll put my shirt on once I get to work.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. But man, there was so many tricks we used to have to try back in the day. Yeah, because we had to. Mm-mm-mm. Look, I used to ride Metro and see guys doing that. Guys, carrying a suit jacket and a white shirt on a hanger and everything, standing in there with in a on a train in a t-shirt. I was like, what? You can't make some of this stuff up, man. You just can't. But man, let's get into something that was speaking of sweating things out. That exhibition game last night between the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens was actually probably one of the best exhibition games, preseason games I think I've seen in a long time. It had a lot of energy for a game of that magnitude, and of I know part of the reason, is because of the Parkway rivalry between the teams, but just the way that they just kind of traded blows in that first half offensively. And I think, for Commanders fans, they got a pretty good look at Sam Howell and really in live situations how he might play. I'm one, you still can't base a whole lot off of a preseason game, especially, with more than 2 weeks away from the season. But that was an encouraging look.
Congratulations to the Commanders. They snapped the 24-game win streak of the Baltimore Ravens for preseason.
Mm.
I think, well, yesterday I expected excitement because the first home game under the new ownership, um, I expected a lot of excitement. the attendance kind of disappointed me because I thought it would be a lot more than it was. I guess that'll be coming for the first game of the season. But Gary, I think what the Commanders need to do is build off of this and not get too caught up in the fact that you snap somebody's 24-game win streak in the preseason.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that because that just I don't know. It's just like a 24-game winning streak of games that don't matter. That's one. It's like, yeah, it's a nice streak, but who remembers that other than ESPN because they need something to talk about?
I think the media. I'm sorry, nothing personal towards you, Gary.
Nothing taken. None taken.
I think some in the media. That's the best way for me to say it. I think some in the media hyped the game up a lot because of this 24-game win streak, but it really doesn't mean anything in the preseason. Yeah. I think some of the Commanders honestly are caught up in the fact that they beat a team that have been unbeaten for 8 years in the preseason. And again, I keep saying preseason. It's a preseason game. Mm-hmm. Did Sam Howell look good? Yes. Did the defense play decently? Yes. Mm-hmm. Did I see good things out of the run game and the 2-minute offense? Yes. Mm-hmm. But it's still a preseason game. They still have to play the Cincinnati Bengals next week. And keep in mind, the Commanders and Ravens have been going at it for the last week because you remember the Ravens and the Commanders scrimmaged each other last week.
Got no fight too, if I recall.
One doozy of a fight. And Gary, I'll say this to you. John Harbaugh will never admit this, but deep down inside, I tell you right now, I bet you he's glad they lost last night because you can get people's attention. You can stop talking about this doggone 8-year, 24-game win streak. And now you can get their attention. So you see what you didn't do. You see what you didn't do here. You see what you didn't do there. You get these players' attention when it's not so much positivity. When they're winning and everything is going great, they're not going to listen as much sometimes. But when you have adversity, you have a loss, you have attention. And I think he has their attention right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The thing, I don't think there's a coach or player in any sport that will deny that you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. Losses, they can be humbling. And of course, the key, John, and you as a coach know this. You tell players, not to get too down about a loss, not to get too high from a win. But at the same time, either way, you learn something from it. I think Washington learned something about itself and about its quarterback. And like you said, they have to build on that. Baltimore, again, it's like now they don't have that distraction because I do think when you have a streak like that, it starts to become a distraction because that's all anybody wants to figure out. Why? Because it's preseason football. I don't know. I had to be reminded of that, by you and by last night. It's like, in spring training, John, who remembers who won the Grapefruit League or the Cactus League? Nobody. And that's what I feel about preseason football. And for all of that the Ravens did in going 8 years or something without a loss, how many Super Bowls have they won since then? Yeah,
very good point, Mr. Graves.
Yeah, it's like it has no bearing on the regular season. I mean, I think about your boy Tom Brady. You could look at Patrick Mahomes. And speaking of which, I just Quarterback, which is an excellent documentary. If you have a chance, programming note to please catch that on Netflix. It's really, really good. But again, it's like preseason. Everybody talks about vanilla defenses and vanilla offenses, but and really you're trying to build your 53-man roster more than anything. But last night, again, I think when you're in a situation like Washington, you want to see what your quarterback really is going to look like for extended time. And then you want to see what your backups look like because, you're always one snap away. And that 2-minute drill, just to set up the field goal, not to mention the field goal itself, because remember when he first kicked that thing, it looked like it was about to sail wide left, and all of a sudden it just kind of hooked back in and went straight down the middle. I mean, it was just like there were just so many things to like about that game last night, and it was a diversion, for the middle of August, and it's 100 degrees everywhere on Earth.
Yeah, it was great to watch. It was a very exciting game. Hats off to the Commanders. They won. But let's not take too many hats off until we get to the regular season. And then we see what's really going to happen and what won't happen.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm trying to think of another game I watched over the weekend that stood out. Jets and the Bucks. That which I thought was an interesting game. More for the Jets, because I think, again, everybody is expecting a lot because Aaron Rodgers is there, but I do think a lot of the complementary players around him, that's what's really going to make a difference. The one thing I will say about Jets receivers, and they pointed this out on the broadcast, is that they seem encouraged not just by having Rodgers there, but because Rodgers is really worked hard to build up chemistry with his receivers, as opposed to last year in Green Bay. We know how that turned out for him there, and it makes you wonder, just like, why in the world didn't he want to spend time with those guys in Green Bay? He was just a guy. It seems apparent that he really, really did want out of there. And he just, I don't want to say he mailed it in, but it looked like he mailed it in.
Well, yeah, I think you answered your own question. He did not want to be there. That was very obvious last season. But I would caution everyone. Yes, Aaron Rodgers looks like he's a brand new player. And yes, right now everything is going swimmingly well. What happens when one of those receivers drops a pass? What happens when they lose a game? And that's when we're going to find out, is he in it all the way or is he in it part of the way? Do I think Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Yes, I do. Absolutely. But you have to see, is he dialed in for the long haul? I'll put it to you like that, Gary. I just need to see that. I've seen teams in the past that have won the off season, shall we say, and signed a lot of players and spent money. You got Dalvin Cook there. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. You got Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You brought Randall Cobb in there, I think, one of his dependable receivers. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And you're even getting something out of Zach Wilson, believe it or not. Remember, he almost played his way out of there.
Yeah, but like I said, let's see what happens when the regular season starts. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. It's what team we haven't talked about, and John Pitt can chime in anytime, are the Dallas Cowboys. I haven't really watched them. They've kind of flown under the radar. So what say you, John Pitt, about your Cowboys? Where'd he go?
Sorry, guys.
You know what?
No, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Gary, you know what? John, if you want to, absolutely positively say something. But Gary, we have our NFC East analysis coming up over the next week to 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And we have someone doing the Dallas Cowboys named Dante Webster. Mm-hmm. And we also will have Mr. Pitt. Why don't we let them answer those questions when we do the Dallas Cowboys analysis?
All right. To the back burner it goes, because again, it's just strange that we have this preseason and we're not really hearing a whole lot of buzz out of Dallas. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. It's just, I'll just look at it this way: no news is good news. If Jerry
John, I
is
didn't mean,
talking, that might be a good sign.
John, I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you want to say anything about the Cowboys?
Gary just took the words out of my mouth. No news is good news. We don't talk about Dallas until playoff time. That's the only thing that matters. We will be in the playoffs, and we'll talk about them then. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I
And just
agree.
like the sun comes up, you will be in the playoffs. And just like the sun comes up, you will lose in the playoffs. But next subject, Gary. Anyway.
keep it moving, Gary. Keep it moving.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the nation's pastime. Baseball. John, your Orioles, it's like they're 30 games over 500. 30 games, John. Nobody expected that.
I did. No.
Well, okay. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yeah, because John, you had faith in the Orioles more than any of us did. I thought the Orioles would improve, but I never thought 30 games over 500 and a 3-game lead in the competitive East was going to be part of that. In contrast, the New York Yankees just look awful, just look absolutely awful. They're in last place, and that's a scenario that I just didn't see happening. And you can't even use Aaron Judge's injury now as an excuse. I mean, their pitching has faltered at times. They're not getting those same clutch hits. It's just like it's a team in disarray. And I guess it begs the question: what do you think happens with Aaron Boone at the end of the season? Do you think do you think this is just kind of an outlier, or do you think they might make a change, the Yankees being the Yankees, and it's championship or bust?
Well, first, let me say this before I talk about the Yankees. I did have confidence in the Orioles, but by no means did I see 30 games above 500. I did not see that coming. First thing I say. Now, as far as the Yankees, let me ask you a question, Gary. What's the name of the owner of the Yankees? What's his name?
You're talking about still a Steinbrenner in charge somewhere.
Okay. What's the last name?
Steinbrenner.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't care where I go in life or what we talk about in sports. I never want to see someone lose their job. Never, ever. Because that means somebody's losing the opportunity to take care of their family. I never want to see that, period. Mm-hmm. But I think Aaron Boone will have a difficult time trying to stay there next year. I hope I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to see anybody get fired. Now, the one thing I say with Aaron Boone, he's very good on TV. I think he could go back to ESPN or maybe go Fox Sports or maybe he could go to the baseball network. He's very good at being an analyst. But you know as well as I do, Gary, whether it's Hal Steinbrenner or it's George Steinbrenner, there is a certain goal that needs to be met each and every year when you wear the pinstripes. Is it a fair goal? Is it a fair situation? Absolutely, positively not. I think this year with the Yankees, and I don't know if Steinbrenner will look at this, Giancarlo Stanton, injured. Aaron Judge, injured. Some of the pitchers, injured. It's rough. Go to the other team in New York, the Mets. Highest payroll in baseball, I think like $300 million or something crazy or astronomical.
Yeah, and all of those pitchers are elsewhere. Scherzer's in Texas, and Verlander. I think he's back in Houston, right?
He's back in Houston, but think about it, Garrett. It all started at the World Baseball Classic. Their closer celebrating a win, tore his knee up, out for the season. It started right there. You lost him. Scherzer didn't start off strong. Verlander didn't start off strong. You had other injuries. Same thing as what's going on in New York. And that's going to be another unfortunate situation too, mm-hmm. with the Mets, in my opinion. And Aaron Boone, I don't want to see lose his job. God knows I don't want to see Buck Showalter lose his job. He did such a wonderful job with the Orioles. And I really like the guy. Yeah. But it's rough, man. It is really rough. It with the Yankees is what have you done for me lately, and I I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong because they brought up two minor leaguers today. So that shows a sign that they may be thinking about playing young kids now, and they realize they're 9 games back of the last wild card. You're 9 games back, and you got a month and a half left of the season. I don't know if you can make that much ground up.
Oh no, no. At some point, you do the math. It's not like 1978 when they were 14 games behind the Red Sox in July and made that up and forced a 1-game playoff and one of the most exciting finishes I've ever seen that I can recall really in my lifetime. But yeah, the Yankees. I'm not going to say that the Yankees are done for this season. I'm going to say that. I'm just going to go out on a limb because of everything you just said. Do I think the Yankees are done in the long term? No, because they've got so much invested. And I think the one thing they do have with Aaron Boone is chemistry. I think he understands his team. He understands his lineup, but there's not a whole lot you can do with suspensions and and injuries longer than 30 days, especially to your key hitters. And really, I'm going to say the implosion of some starting pitching, especially I think with Garrett Cole's last outing. I mean, he got rocked and yeah, he got rocked by the Red Sox. And of course, that can't happen under any circumstance if you're in New York. Again, he might be better next time and come out and toss a one-hitter. But in the last week, I think I've seen the Yankees one hit by the Braves, and then again, watch Garrett Cole just get absolutely shelled. And it's just one of those years where things just kind of go off the rails. Moving over to the National League, and since you mentioned the Mets, and I have to note this in terms of the National League East, what is the biggest surprise between, I'd say, the Mets falling apart with all that talent, or the Washington Nationals actually having a realistic shot to finish at 500?
I would say the second. And Gary, I'm gonna be honest with you. The Nats are scaring the bejeebers out of me. And the Orioles next month play the Nationals in a 2-game series. I don't even want to see them. And I'll give you this also. Do not count the Washington Nationals out yet for a wild card spot.
Yep.
They still have a chance. And
Yep.
my goodness, they play well. I mean, Davey Martinez is doing a great job with them. Rizzo's made some great decisions, and they have an awesome farm system again. I watched them the other night. What was it? Monday night when they played at the Little League. They played Williamsport.
That Sunday night game.
Yeah.
That was that. I mean, the closer almost killed it for them, but but they bounced back from getting waxed on Saturday to really gut out a win on Sunday night, which we've watched sports long enough. We've seen that kind of thing happen. But to your point about Davey Martinez and Rizzo, Davey Martinez just got a 2-year extension today, and Rizzo's extension is not far behind. For a team that basically had to, I don't want to say blow it up, but they really did blow it up and ship it off. Turner, yeah. I mean, they had gotten some guys in the interim, but there's at the beginning of the season we couldn't name like one player on that team. Now you've got an all-star pitcher. You got J.J. Abrams, who they got in, I think, in a trade for Juan Soto. Is really a promising player. And again, they have really hovered with trying to make a run at 500. And you could say, well, they're going to finish in last place. It really doesn't matter. But with this team, we all predicted 100 losses, did we not?
Yeah, and they may. I don't think they're going to have 100 losses,
Oh no,
and I
they're not
definitely,
even close. Yeah.
and I don't even think they're going to stay in last place, Gary. Like I said, they have an outside shot at a wild card, and I think even if they don't get there, they're going to make life miserable for a lot of teams.
Yeah. Because when you could play spoiler, like I think and that's what they're thinking right now. If you play spoiler for any of the teams in either league, that gives you confidence going into the next year. They're not really bound salary wise with with a lot of these guys. At some point, they'll probably find ownership and there'll be more stability there. But you've got a manager in place, and provided the next ownership wants to keep that front office and managerial staff in place, that once you have stable ownership, then you figure they might try to go out and find some free agents. Trade for a free agent. Sign a free agent in the market. Hopefully, not bust your bubble. Bust your budget rather when you do it. But you find that one anchor guy for your pitching staff as well as for your lineup, and just keep on depending on these guys that just continue to grind it out. And I think the thing I really like about this team right now, for all the managers that they had, during those winning years, that Davey Martinez has actually proved himself to be a pretty good, or actually a better judge of talent and how he uses it than anybody ever expected. Because it wasn't long ago, John, if you recall, they wanted to run him out on a rail.
Yeah, you're right, but they stuck with him, and he's doing a good job. He's bringing up the what I call the kitty brigade. He's bringing them up and getting them ready. And hey, I'm not I'm not a Nats fan. I'm not a Nats hater either, but I have to say they're doing a great job. And also, I'll say it again, not looking forward to seeing them in Baltimore in September. Matter of fact, one of those games I'll be going to, so I'll be there for one of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John, it's the off season for the NBA, but James Harden has made news. He received $100,000 fine by the NBA for criticizing ownership, or basically calling the owner a moron. And I've seen a few social media threads where they say, well, his free speech might have been violated, and I'm like, not so much, because really, I mean, you can criticize, like if he just flat out criticized management, that's one thing, but something like that, and it says you can't make those kind of comments about ownership in the league, or officials in the league. The bigger story is, like, what is James Harden trying to do? I don't know if it's obvious he wants out of Philadelphia, but comments like that, I feel like, make him less desirable for anybody to get, because they don't want the headaches. And you don't know whether he really wants to win or not at this point.
James Harden. I'll start off by saying this. 25 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, he will be looked upon as somebody, one, who changed the game. Mm-hmm. When he left Oklahoma City and he went to Houston, led the league in scoring. He changed how to be a point guard, and the step back shot he had, which to this day I still say is a walk, but he changed basketball. Mm-hmm. But where am I going with this? For all the good that he has done, he's done a lot to self-destruct as well. When he was at Houston, he didn't want to stay at Houston anymore, so he found a way to get out of there to get to Brooklyn. When he was in Brooklyn, he didn't want to be there anymore, so he found a way out to get to Philadelphia. Now you're in Philadelphia, and you don't want to stay there. What is it? What's the term? You sign back in, or you went back in, or something. Whatever the term is to use in the NBA when you re-sign.
well, I'll say, opt back in because a lot
Yeah,
of
he
us
opted back in. He
yeah,
opted
yeah,
back in, but he opted back in with the thought that Daryl Morey, who's the general manager, president of basketball for the Sixers, was going to move him. That's why he opted in, because he thought he was going to be traded. It's still a business. And Morey, and I'll also say this, Morey doesn't have a great reputation with some around the league either, Gary.
nope.
He's known as somebody that is short-sighted, difficult in trade negotiations, and doesn't really feel a lot for players when he gets rid of them, when he trades them.
Yeah, I think he runs that team like he's running a fantasy league team for some reason. That's it's just I think he just thinks he can plug and play guys anywhere, and the whole thing with Ben Simmons back in the day, it was kind of emblematic of that.
You look at Morey and Harden. They used to be tied at the hip. The reason Harden is in Houston is because of Morey. The reason Harden had the success he had because Morey had the right coach in there. I'm going to tell you this too, Gary. I'm going to say it. Nobody else has said it. I may be totally wrong. I think part of the problem is Philadelphia was looking for a new coach. Mike D'Antoni was out there available. Who does Harden play best for? Mike D'Antoni. How does Mike D'Antoni coach? He coaches good little guys. He doesn't coach great big men. He doesn't do that. So when Morey did not sign D'Antoni, I think that said a lot to Harden. And Harden didn't want to be there anymore. Now, let me also say in Morey's defense, I would not have signed D'Antoni either. For the simple fact, you got Joel Embiid. What did I say earlier? He does not coach big men well. That's not what he does. He works a game where it's a small ball game and you open up the middle and you're looking for open jumpers and drive to the basket and kick back out for threes. That's his game. His game is not working with a guy like Joel Embiid and getting the ball down low to him and all that. That's just not what D'Antoni does. So I think, and I've never heard this anywhere, never seen it written anywhere, never heard anybody say it, but I just think when they didn't sign D'Antoni, Harden definitely didn't want to be there anymore. And Harden keeps saying he wants to be with the Clippers. So what do you do with Westbrook? Both him and Westbrook are ball dominant. So what are you going to do with Westbrook? You're going to move Westbrook now? And the thing with Harden, and I'll say this.
Come on, I know what you're thinking.
James Harden would not be in this situation if this past season, in Game 6, in the fourth quarter, he didn't go whatever he went, invisible, however you want to say it. Or in Game 7, when they just totally, nobody was there.
Yeah.
Or go back to not this past season, the season before, when they were up on Boston, and the same thing happened. You see, James Harden can score 45 points. He did it against Boston and then score 42, but then followed it up with 14 and 10. How? Why? James Harden still, it's obvious he still has the ability to control a game, to go for 45. But doggone it, you need to go for 45 and 35, not 45 and 14. And my point with that is this, Gary. If he had been able to do that, he could call his shots. He could call where he wants to go. One, Morey's asking for way too much for Harden. That's one thing. But two, Harden is showing that he is inconsistent now. One day he can do it, the next day he can't. And he has no one to blame on some of this but himself.
Yeah. Excellent point, John. I mean, you said everything I was thinking. With Harden, there's regular season Harden where he involves everybody. He scores, but he's dishing off. He's doing the things. I mean, he's even playing a little defense. And then there's playoff Harden where he can light it up, for those 2 games that you alluded to, but then just completely disappear. I've never seen a more mercurial player in times that really matter. And any team that is interested in him would have to ask itself, which Harden are we going to get? Regular season Harden or playoff Harden? We don't want playoff Harden. We'll take regular season Harden to help get us to the playoffs, but then you really have to light like damn near a campfire under his behind to keep him engaged in the playoffs. And that's the thing I'll never ever understand about him, that a guy, for all the things you mentioned about how he's changed the game, that he can just flat out disappear in the clutch. And you could almost make that same argument about Joel Embiid.
Yeah. But here's the thing with Joel Embiid, Gary. Joel Embiid is 6'11" and 250 pounds.
Yeah.
You can't teach height. You
No,
can't coach height.
No, you can't coach height. No. But there's a thing about heart too, John, and that's, I always say, this is what makes the difference between a team like, well, I'll say maybe a team like the Boston Celtics, or really a team like the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, I think, have a whole lot of heart. They just didn't have all the talent to keep pace with Denver in the finals. But I'm telling you, that team has a lot of heart. And maybe if they had Tyler Hero for most of that series, it might have been a different outcome. But Jimmy Buckets, man, I mean, he's got heart, and I think that's why he's got such a following. They're not done by any stretch, but when you look at next year, John, do you really see Philadelphia being in the mix, playoff wise, or championship wise, not playoff wise?
I'll say this,
because I don't.
It's going to be a transition year, but if they don't, I don't think Embiid wants to stay there anymore. Now you got another problem. Now you got Embiid that wants out and Harden that wants out. And let me just back up for 1 second with Harden. Let me just back up for 1 second and say this. They almost are to the point now, they being the 76ers, their back's almost to the wall where they may not have any choice but to trade Harden because of the comments that he's making are going to be so divisive to the team and management, they're not going to be able to function. Mm-hmm. They're almost to the point where they may have to just go ahead and just get the best deal they can instead of the best deal, because Harden staying there is going to be problems. It's obvious him and Morey see things totally different, and Harden's going to express himself. I don't think finding James Harden $100,000 is going to make him shut up. He's still going to say whatever he wants. He's still going to get his point across, and he's going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah. The Sixers are a team, John, that I think is like, it's a hairline between them being competitive and blowing and having to blow it up. And I mean, really blow it up from the front office, through the roster and start all over. I don't know if they really made the right coaching choice with Budenholzer. I think he's the kind of guy that can work with Embiid and try to get the best out of him.
I thought Philadelphia got Nick Nurse.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, Nick Nurse. You're right. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Nick Nurse.
You're scaring me. I thought there was late news coming.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm, it's like you're right. With all of these championship coaches that have, find themselves with jobs. I forgot. I got them flipped. Sorry, audience. But
I'm not trying to call you out, Gary. I'm like, wait a minute. Gary must know something I don't know. There must be some breaking news. Something.
Yeah. Senior moment. That's all I'm gonna leave it at. But yeah, I mean, even with him, that he's a guy that I think he can get something out of Embiid. I really do. And I think he's got a reputation of working well with not temperamental players, but those guys that when they're good, they're very good, but when they're bad, they can be awful. I think he can get, he got a championship in Toronto that nobody really expected, as you know, and renting Kawhi Leonard for a year essentially, and that's something that's very, very difficult to do. I mean, he made the use of it. He's got a good team to build around, but that team, chemistry wise or mindset wise, I don't know where they are. And again, it's just a thin line between being a playoff contender and having to blow it up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but they're going to have to make a run, because I still say if they don't, Embiid's going to be the next person who wants to be out of there.
Yep. And now then you're looking at a lottery team. You know, we can talk. Well, you know, the closer we get to NBA season, we're going to talk about where some of these guys might be. You know, who the next contender is, and you know, at some point maybe I can formulate an idea about Ben Simmons and figure that out, because you know he's another guy that it's like I still want to have some faith in him, just because, like you said, you can't coach height, but it's like, what is it? You know, million dollar talent and a 10-cent head, and you just got to figure out how to deal with that.
I think Ben Simmons, and I may be in the minority, I still think he's a talented ball player. I think some of the things that he was going through in Philadelphia were things with mental health, but you know, we all want everybody to be healthy physically and mentally, and I think that was a struggle for him. In Brooklyn, I think, you know, they are, you know, Durant's gone, Harden's gone, Kyrie Irving's gone. They can build the way they want, and Ben Simmons can be a major cog in that development and improvement within the team.
Yeah. Well, John, it's been fun. You know, all of these subjects can get a rise out of us in different ways. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Orioles ownership and a possible ticket price increase, but we can save that for another day, because chances are John Angelos will say something that will have us talking about something and have you fuming, but we'll save that for another day. In the meantime, folks, there's a lot to watch on TV. Yeah, we always talk about watching sports, and there's a lot going on. There's U.S. Open qualifying. The World Track and Field Championships are going on, and they're always fun to watch. You know, there's also golf as it wraps up its season. But right now, we're talking about pennant races. Got to catch some of these games, preseason football. And in another week, actually, John, we have college football starting before Labor Day. I think, you know, next week is the first of a kickoff game. That's where we are, and that's why I love sports. So watch, and then we'll come back and talk about it and try to break it down.
I'll just leave you with this, Gary and everybody. College football will start on August 26th. There is a team from South Bend, Indiana, that will be playing in Ireland against the Naval Academy. Please watch it. This team from South Bend, Indiana, is one of the greatest academic and athletic institutions that you will ever see in the world. So please watch the Notre Dame Fighting Irish as they take on the Navy midshipmen. And everybody, watch some sports this week. Watch Notre Dame, watch baseball, watch football, watch golf, watch tennis. Doesn't matter. Just watch something, and definitely watch the Irish. Take care, and we'll see you again real soon.